When I told my mother-in-law I was going back to my hometown to give birth, "By all means, go back. I don't want to see your face." I was delighted from the bottom of my heart as I was waiting for those words. "You won't have to see me anymore, rest assured." "What?" I am Emily, about to turn 28. My mother died from illness when I was only 2. Since my father, a busy man, ran a clothing company with a 100-year-old tradition, I was looked after by my grandmother as he worked. My father was very strict, and I lived my life just as he told me to. Perhaps because of that, I had never dated a man, but I had given up, thinking it was destiny. After graduating from college, I worked briefly as my father's secretary at his company, but he said it was hard for him to work together and forced me to quit. I didn't get a job after that, because my father strongly stated that I don't need to work. However, my friends from university got jobs and started dating and getting married one after another, so I wanted to work too. I told my father one night, "Dad, can I work?" "No." He said one word without asking for a reason. "Why not?" "Because you don't need to work." "But I also need to go out into society and gain more experience." "Emily, don't talk back." "I'm not talking back. I'm not saying anything wrong." "You should just stay at home, Emily." "If you say that, I'll leave home. I'll leave home and go to work from there." "Emily, stop it." "No, I am an adult. I won't always do as you say." I cried and left the place. Even in my room, I cried for a long time. After a while, I called my friend from college, Lisa. "Can I come to your house now?" "Sure, but what's wrong? And can you go out at this time?" "I can't right now, but I'll figure it out. Can I stay at your place for a while?" Lisa's apartment was a luxury condominium gifted by her parents, boasting 3 rooms. "Seems like something's up." "That's fine. Just be careful on your way here." Quietly, I pulled out my suitcase, packed my belongings, and stealthily left the house so as not to alert my father. I left a note on my desk stating that I was going to stay with a friend. Once outside, I hailed a taxi and headed towards Lisa's apartment. Upon arriving at Lisa's apartment, I was greeted with my favorite coffee that she had prepared. "Thank you, Lisa." "What's going on, Emily?" I explained everything about the argument with my father and my subsequent departure from home. "That's awful, Emily. You've had no freedom at all." Her words brought tears to my eyes once again. "Until now, I did everything my father said, and thinking it was normal, but suddenly I've started craving my own freedom." "That's completely normal. It's strange that your father doesn't allow you to work. I'd like to meet many people and have a good time, too. So, does your dad know you're here?" I left a note saying I was going to a friend's place, but he doesn't know any of my friends. "He might be frantically searching for you right now." "Maybe." "It's late now. Shall we go to bed?" "Yeah, I'm really tired." Lisa prepared a separate room for me to sleep in. The next day, Lisa left for work. When I checked my phone, I saw about 10 missed calls from my dad. I felt sorry for him, and I sent him an email to assure him not to worry. In the evening, after Lisa finished work, she called me. "I'm going out for a drink. Why don't you join us?" Having little experience with social drinking, I was excited about going out. When I arrived at the location Lisa mentioned, I found her waiting with 2 men. "Sorry for keeping you waiting. So, who are these gentlemen?" Pointing to the shorter man, Lisa said. "This is my boyfriend, and the tall guy over there, he's single and ready to mingle." The tall man introduced himself with a refreshing smile. "Nice to meet you. I'm Max. Pleased to make your acquaintance." "Oh, nice to meet you. I'm Emily." That's how our relationship started. Max worked at a small company in the apparel industry. For a moment, I thought it was a company similar to my father's, but I quickly dismissed the thought. Max's family was the opposite of mine, with only his mother around, but he didn't discuss the reason, and I didn't ask. One day Max said to me, "I'd like to meet your father, Emily." I had been emailing my father several times since I left home, but I had no intention of going back home yet, so I didn't want to meet him. "I'll think about it, but I would like to meet your mom, Max." "Sure. When? Even today is fine, if you want." "Really? Today is fine? Then I should buy some kind of gift." "Yeah, my mom loves that kind of thing." As I found out later, my mother-in-law didn't just love that kind of thing, she got very cranky if I didn't bring those kinds of things for her. On the way to Max's house, I bought a cake at a bakery. Upon arrival at Max's house, my mother-in-law was waiting for us at the front door. When I asked Max why his mother was there, he told me he had sent her a message from the bakery. My mother-in-law stared at me and asked, "And your name is?" I'm Emily. Nice to meet you." "What do you do for a living?" "I'm currently unemployed, but I plan to work soon." "Oh, so you're just idling about. How nice it must be to be a rich young lady." "I'm not rich. That's why I want to work." "You don't need to talk back. What do your parents do?" "My mother passed away when I was young. My father works at a company." Max, who had been watching my conversation with his mother from the side, said, "How long are you two going to talk here? Let's go inside." "Right. By the way, Max, did she bring anything? Surely she didn't come empty-handed." In a rush, I handed my mother-in-law the paper bag containing the cake. This isn't much, but..." Grabbing the bag almost violently from my hand, she peered inside and commented, "I didn't really need anything, but I guess I'll take it." In a few minutes I had spent talking to my mother-in-law, I had grown to despise her. And I felt sorry for anyone who had to call such a person mother-in-law. Entering the living room, my mother-in-law bombarded me with questions, and I gave her only bland answers. Regardless, she continued to interrogate me relentlessly, almost as if I were a criminal suspect. Exhausted by the barrage of one-sided questions, I told Max the moment her line of questioning eased. "Max, I think I should go soon." At that, my mother-in-law's face turned red with anger. "Do you really hate being with me that much? You've been giving me half-hearted replies to my questions this whole time." "Mom, please calm down." "Max, why on earth did you bring such a rude woman here? There must be better women out there." I snapped back at her. "What about me is rude exactly? If there's something I should improve, then tell me so I can work on it." That seemed to incense my mother-in-law even further. "You're quite cheeky, aren't you? All you have to do is answer my questions." "I've been answering everything you've asked." "You dislike me, don't you? I can see it in your face." I wanted to say yes, but I couldn't. "I'm just tired and would like to go home." "Well, aren't you audacious? I wonder what kind of education your parents gave you. They mustn't have been good parents. I would love to see what they look like." Hearing her badmouth my parents, I was overwhelmed with sadness and began to cry. "Oh dear, now you're crying for sympathy. If you want to go home so badly, then go. It'll be a breath of fresh air. Also, I'm going to feed this cake you brought to my dog, Charlie. But Charlie is quite a pampered pooch, so he might not eat such a cheap cake." Laughing, my mother-in-law pointed at the cake I had bought. "Mom, enough is enough. Max, you really have no eye for women." Max frowned at his mother's comment and retorted, "Why are you always so argumentative? Can't you act more mature for once?" Max shot back, causing his mother to lose her energy instantly. All I want is a good wife for you, Max. I get that, but I'm an adult too, you know. I'm not a kid anymore, so I can handle my own stuff. Hearing Max's words, his mother's eyes filled with tears, and she left the room. With a teary face, I decided to leave too, but Max followed me and apologized. Emily, I'm sorry for all the harsh words my mom said. She must be jealous, thinking that she's losing me to you. I'll talk to her about this, okay? Please don't let this discourage you from coming again. I'm really hurt by what your mother said about my parents. Max, I don't want to see your mother again. The moment I said that, a wave of sadness overwhelmed me, and I burst into tears, throwing myself into Max's arms. Max held me close and after a while suggested, "How about we go somewhere now?" Barely nodding, I left the house with Max. Since Max didn't have a car, we took the train and got off at a station by the beach. We sat on a bench on the sandy beach, staring at the sea for a long time. 2 months passed since then. I found out that I was pregnant. When I consulted Max about it, he proposed. Let's get married. We don't have to have a ceremony, but we'll make it official. We can live at my house, okay? I don't make much money at my job, so I can't afford to rent an apartment. I'll make sure to talk to my mom about not saying unnecessary things to you, Emily. Living with his mother wasn't ideal for me, but there was no other place to live. Okay, I'll try my best to get along with your mother. Thus, I ended up living with my mother-in-law. Because I was getting married, I went back home to tell my father about it. He looked delighted when he saw me. It's good to see you looking well. I know we've been in touch, but it's been a while since I last saw you. I'm sorry, Dad. I have something important to tell you. My father's expression changed immediately. I told him about my encounter with Max, my pregnancy, and our plan to get married. My father listened silently. When I finished, he simply said, Well, congratulations. Can't wait to meet my grandchild. His smile looked forced. Dad, thank you. I'm sorry for bringing such sorrow as a daughter, I said as tears flowed down my face. My dad was also crying. I expected him to be angry, but his gentle words hurt me even more. I ended up moving into my mother-in-law's house. Lisa, who had been taking care of me ever since I left my home, said to me, You better show me your cute baby's face soon. Yeah, of course, and you should get married soon too. I want to get married soon too, but he just won't make up his mind. But I think it'll work out somehow. Let's go out for dinner together again. I planned to move on Sunday, but my mother-in-law said it was a bad luck day, so I changed it to Saturday. The move was completed safely on Saturday morning. While the movers were carrying my belongings, my mother-in-law just stood there, watching them. She was repeatedly told by the movers to step back, because it was dangerous, but she wouldn't move. When the move was over, my mother-in-law called me over and said, You didn't give them what they're supposed to get, right? I didn't understand. Huh? It seemed she misunderstood me, pretending not to know, and she went away and handed something to the leaders of the movers. Seeing that, I understood what she was saying, but when she came back to me, she said, Emily, dear, it seemed like you didn't want to part with your money, so I gave it for you. Of course you'll pay me back later. She then told me an absurd amount of money. It was way beyond what was generally considered reasonable, so I said, You gave them that much? Oh dear, was that bad? It's not bad, but I think the amount was a little too much. It's the thought that counts in these situations. If you skimp, you'll be cursed. I'm not saying I'm skimping. I didn't say anything more because I knew it would lead to another argument. My mother-in-law had this face saying, I'm right no matter what you say. That's when Max showed up and said to my mother-in-law, "Mom, what's up? What did you say to Emily?" "Just nothing." My mother-in-law replied succinctly, then walked off. "You okay? I told her not to mess with you, you know." "Thanks." Deciding not to mention to Max that I almost had another argument with my mother-in-law. I knew if I did, he might mention it to her, causing her to grow even more hostile towards me. After moving in, my mother-in-law barely spoke to me, obviously avoiding me. There were even weeks when she wouldn't utter a word to me, and those days were bliss. One day, Max brought home some work documents in an envelope. It was marked with a company name, Star Textiles, Inc., and that made me gasp. That was a name I had heard many times during my time working for my dad's company. They were one of our subcontractors. I asked Max, "Is this your company's envelope?" "Yeah, why?" "I was just wondering. I just realized that I didn't know much about your company." I didn't tell him that his company was a subcontractor to my father's. For some reason, I felt it was better not to say anything. "Well, we're just a small subcontractor. If our parent company decided to drop us, we'd go bankrupt instantly, and all the employees would lose their jobs." Max laughed with this, his wistful look. About a month later, Max started coming home late from work. He also seemed down, so I asked him, "You've been coming home late recently. Is something wrong? You don't seem yourself." He admitted and said, "The company's in trouble." "What, like going bankrupt?" Max nodded. "The parent company suddenly decided to cut our orders by half. Now our boss is begging them every day to continue business as usual. We're also looking for new clients. But if neither of those things work out, we're going bankrupt." As I listened to Max's story, I thought about asking my dad to help Max's company. But my father is strict about his work, so he would never help a business partner out of personal feelings. For some reason, the number of business partners must have been halved. I told him that my father's company is the parent company of Max's. Max was surprised at first, but then he told me with a twinkle in his eyes, "Emily, please, beg your father not to reduce his business with us." "I'm sorry, Max. My father is strict in business. He would never make such a decision based on personal matters." "Could you at least try, Emily?" "It won't help." As I said this, Max got down on his knees before me. "Please, I beg you." "Stop it, Max. Don't do this." "I'll talk to my father, but I know it won't make a difference." As Max raised his head, tears of relief streamed down his face. That night, I called my father and explained Max's desperate plea. "So, the company Max works for is Star Textiles. I guess I have to help them then." I was surprised. I had expected my father, with his strict business mindset, to refuse outright. "But I have two conditions. First, I will continue to do business with Star Textiles as before. But I want Max to leave that company and work for mine. Second, you and Max will move in with me. Is that acceptable?" "So you're saying Max should transfer to your company?" "I'll talk to him about that, but why do you want us to live with you?" My father answered, sounding a bit uncomfortable. "I just want my daughter close by." "Okay, but why did you decide to reduce your dealings with Star Textiles in the first place?" "A new company approached us with a very attractive proposal, so we decided to do business with them. But after some research, we found out that they have a history of breaking promises, so we were planning to call off the deal." "So even if I hadn't asked, Star Textiles would have been fine?" "Maybe." My father laughed, and I couldn't help but laugh too. After hanging up, I immediately relayed the conditions my father had proposed to Max. He was relieved that Star Textiles was no longer in jeopardy. but he seemed hesitant about moving to my father's company.
It's hard for me to consider working for your father's company, Emily. I've always worked hard at Star Textiles, and I have a lot of good colleagues.
I'll tell my father what you said. I called my father again, and when I relayed what Max had said, my father responded.
He indeed said that? Huh. He's a responsible good man. Got it. He can keep doing his best at Star Textiles, but I'm not backing down about you guys moving into my house.
Understood. After the phone call, Max was overjoyed when I told him what my dad had said. I told Max, just remember, don't let your mother know about my father's company. If she finds out, she'll start nagging again.
Right. Got it.
Several weeks later, I decided to go back home for the birth of our child. Even though it's just my father and elderly grandmother at home, it's way better than being taken care of by my mother-in-law. I waited until my mother-in-law was having her afternoon tea in the living room, and I approached her. Mother-in-law, about my childbirth, I've decided to go back home. It's just my dad and my grandmother, but my grandma is still very active and full of energy. When I said this, my mother-in-law looked at me with hateful eyes and said,
By all means, go back. I don't want to see your face.
I didn't feel anything when my mother-in-law said this, as I had anticipated it. You won't have to see me anymore, so rest easy.
What?
I mean, I won't be coming back here anymore. And soon, Max will be moving to my parents' house as well.
What are you talking about? Max is too busy with work to move.
It's okay now. At that moment, Max came in and said to his mother,
Mom, my company is going to be okay now. Emily helped me. What are you talking about? Emily's dad is the owner of my company's parent company. What?
Hearing this, my mother-in-law raised her voice and stared at me for a while before saying,
Emily, I had no idea you were the daughter of the owner of a parent company of Max's. I've been very rude to you up until now.
My mother-in-law bowed deeply. It's okay now.
May I ask you for a favor? I'd like to live together at your parents' house as well. Mom, no, you can stay here.
Yeah, I don't want to live with you, mother-in-law. I'd be reminded of all the things you've said to me up until now.
I won't say anything else, please, I beg you,
my mother-in-law said with tears in her eyes. I know it seems cold, but that's not possible. Then, my mother-in-law got on her knees, bowed her head to the floor, and pleaded.
Please, I don't want to live without Max. Please.
No, I can't.
Mom, stop it. If you had been kind to Emily before, we could have lived together, but your past behavior has led to this. Give it up.
I told my mother-in-law, who continued to shed tears on the floor. Well, mother-in-law, you brought this on yourself. Half a year later, Max, our newborn daughter Kay, and I visited my mother-in-law's house. However, the house was void of any human presence, and the air was chillingly cold. Max was calling out loudly to his mother, but there was no response. Max, did you mention we were coming over?
No, I thought it'd be a surprise.
I wonder where she is. Just then, my mother-in-law, who had become severely emaciated, came out of the bathroom. Even upon seeing us, she did not change her expression. The kitchen was piled high with remnants of instant noodles, and dirty dishes were left stacked.
Mom, are you okay?
My mother-in-law glanced at Max, but said nothing. Mother-in-law, we brought your favorite cake. As I held out the cake, my mother-in-law rushed towards me, snatched the cake, and began devouring it immediately. I repeated what I had said before. Well, mother-in-law, you brought this on yourself.